story of India's largest consumer electrical manufacturer began in a bustling market in Delhi's Chandni Chowk. A school teacher from Jalandhar called Anil Rai Gupta moved to Delhi and set up an electrical trading business in 1958. A few years later, his neighbor's business ran into trouble. Gupta did not have enough capital to buy his neighbor's business, but he did have enough money to buy the brand. And that brand was Havells. The name of its first owner, Anil Rai Gupta. But don't be fooled by the name. Havells is a 100% homegrown brand that almost entirely makes in India. Today, Havells is present in more than 60 countries. It has 14 manufacturing units and employs nearly 6,000 people with a network of nearly 14,000 dealers. It's also known for its quirky advertisements.
क्यों मैम शॉक लगा? For totally shock-proof life, trust Havells, Fast Trip RCCB and MCB.
2 decades ago, Havells had an annual revenue of 300 crore rupees. It was a rising star in the industry and had managed to weather stiff competition from global MNCs. Today, its annual revenue touches 17,000 crore rupees. Its market capitalization has soared from 100 crore rupees in 2003 to nearly 80,000 crore rupees as of 2023. Apart from fighting competition, Havells also had to combat against consumer mindset in the early 2000s.
20 years ago, while we were having good quality products, great collaborations and excellent manufacturing facilities, Havells was still considered a B-grade player as compared to many other multinationals. That was also because of a lot of the mindset of the Indian consumers. I think what has changed in the last couple of decades is that while the focus on excellent quality manufacturing capabilities has remained, we have actually been able to reach the consumer's mindset to portray that companies like Havells can give world-class quality as well as at Indian prices.
Pricing, innovation and technology have all played a big role in the success of Havells and its chairman and managing director Anil Rai Gupta. He is the son of Anil Rai Gupta and took over the company after his father died in 2014. Now, under his leadership, revenue has more than doubled thanks to organic growth and acquisitions.
We acquired Lloyd, which was completely dependent upon outsourcing air conditioners from China. And everybody said, the global majors like Korean companies, Japanese companies, they have the technology, whether Havells has the wherewithal to bring in the technology. Today, I'm very proud to say that, Havells is now inching towards a 20,000 crore revenue. 95% is manufactured in-house in India, and everything that is churned out is developed by Indian engineers in India, whether it's an air conditioner or an air circuit breaker, or a product like a refrigerator, or as a small product like a miniature circuit breaker. Everything is developed, and we have the capability to export it all over the world. So I think I would say that while we've moved from the B grade player to a very, very high the level of brand where customers are satisfied with the products that they are using, but the next step is to ensure and make them feel, the customers feel, that Havells is a technologically advanced, manufacturer as compared to the competition.
Well, Gupta is big on technology and he puts his money where his mouth is. Havells has invested nearly 500 crore rupees in R&D over the last 5 years. Capital expenditure has grown more than 30-fold in the last 2 decades.
Right. I think, the fact that we decided to go in for in-house and Indian manufacturing was only because we wanted to get a hold on supply chain and technology. Anybody can go out to China, import a product and that will be just a Me Too product. The whole idea of taking the Havells brand from a B player to an A player was that unless and until we are able to give a different product, a much better featured product, and that required investment in R&D, that required investment in manufacturing. I believe last couple of decades we've made huge investments. We've made every year 500 to 1,000 crores has been invested in manufacturing infrastructure, where we say we have world-class and world-scale factories for manufacturing all our products. But you rightly said, over the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years, there's a lot of focus on developing R&D centers. We have 3 now with over 600 engineers, and there is a lot of spend on R&D because we believe that the consumer is changing, and the consumer is aspiring for products which are far more advanced and sometimes features which they are also not even aspiring for. But we believe that in the next 5 to 10 years, the world, because of IoT, internet, everything is going to change. The way they interact with the products will change. So there's a whole lot of investment. So I would say, if you ask me about capital allocation, the last couple of decades was brand, manufacturing, distribution. It's now more on technology and innovation. That's where a lot of capital is being put into.
In its history, Havells has taken many bold decisions, especially when it comes to M&A. In 2007, Havells made a big play. It acquired the assets of lighting company Sylvania in Europe, South America and Asia. Sylvania was bigger than Havells in size. The move was fraught with risk and danger.
It was a bold step, 1.5 times the size of Havells in 50 countries as against what we were in one country, very different cultures. But we took that bold step and we said, the whole strategy was to acquire a brand and distribution outside of India, as we were very strong in India. We did that, but global financial crisis happened in 2008. I still would attribute again to the entrepreneurial culture and believing in one culture in the organization, that we were able to make a Havells culture in 50 countries of Sylvania. And we were the first Indian company to actually turn it around within 1.5 years. After making losses, within 1.5 years, we were profitable. And the company remained profitable till the time we exited in 2015.
When Havells sold Sylvania in 2015, the stock rallied 8%. Investors liked the idea of saving the cash and plowing it into India.
The reason for exit, I would say, was actually more towards, looking at those markets where we had sluggish growth, European markets, and a lot of technological change happening from the conventional lighting to LED lighting. And we believe this is the time when we can focus in India, where it's very fast growing markets. We can manage this technological change much better within our confined category areas, as well as diversify into related fields. We actually used that money when we divested and made another bold move of acquiring Lloyd, which was a consumer durable play, and integrating that with Havells. So I think it's one, I would say, not only taking bold and courageous moves and being, I would say, smart about that, not reckless about that, but also identifying the mistakes or I would say the corrective actions that are required at different points of time, and the ability to actually take those decisions also, and then moving on and taking the company forward. So I would say that buying Sylvania was a bold move, selling Sylvania was a bold move.
Conservatively aggressive, that is how Anil Gupta describes the global ambitions at Havells. According to him, what matters more is to generate returns for shareholders. Now, Havells has managed to return 20% on the capital it deploys consistently over the last 5 years. This is above the industry average of 15%.
Well, I think at a global level, if we see ourselves, we are, I would say a conservatively aggressive organization. So we are financially conservative, yet we are very ambitious. So we owe it to the shareholders to generate returns on capital for the shareholders. So I still feel that while there is a vision, but the overall, we are driven by the fact how we are allocating our capital and whether we are able to generate returns on capital employed for the shareholder. So every business is looked at from that angle. However, we also believe that the business has certain needs, and those needs cannot be compromised because you have certain financial parameters in mind. So it has to go hand in hand, And we believe that we've been able to work out a formula that within a certain period of time at least we are able to achieve, returns for the shareholders as well. But it does require, just like any startup would, it requires initial investments. That time can be 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, maybe, but it does require that kind of investment.
Well, the mantra of conservative aggression has taken Havells to the top of the market in different segments. We will continue to explore the story of the company, but after this very short break on the winning mindset. Welcome back to the winning mindset. From switchgears to cables, lighting and fans, Havells has a sizable market share across its business segments and brands. It is the market leader in switches, cables and lighting. It is a significant player in fans, water heaters, air conditioners and solar products. The mantra for growth is finding synergies within the business lines.
The vision of the company that any business line that we need to enter into, within first 5 to 6 years, we need to be amongst the top 3 players. Otherwise, it is not meaningful. And once you have that vision, you start investing in the same way any other incumbent player would, in terms of R&D, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of distribution structure, in terms of sales infrastructure. What you can find synergies on is something which is behind. You can't say, okay, I'm manufacturing wires and cables, and tomorrow for synergies I'll start manufacturing appliances in that plant, or tomorrow, same R&D guy would start looking after. So you need to invest in every business if you want to have that vision of being amongst the top 3 or 4 players within a short period of time, and that keeps us driving. So that's where the investments go in, and and as you rightly said, most of the people think that to drive synergies they combine things which they should not, and that's why they are never able to succeed in businesses which they have not been hitherto very successful in. I would say people talk about youth, young organizations, the startups and all that. I would say at Havells, we've been able to, build startups in the last 20 years, almost every year. Every year we would, seed in a new business, maybe water purifiers or maybe domestic appliances. Treat this as a startup for the first 5 or 6 years, but having a clear vision that we would dominate this industry in the first 5 years of our entry. That means being amongst the top 3 players. And we've actually created 20 startups in the last 20 years within the organization. So it is all because of empowerment and agility.
Havells manages a large network of nearly 14,000 dealers across the world. The company has managed to leverage this strong strength to provide direct market feedback on its products.
We have 14,000 dealers all across India. The more and more, not just me, but my team, but my people who are going out in the market, the more and more they're listening to those dealers. They're actually listening to the voices of the consumer. All our employees, for example, when the pandemic happened, not only were they sure of themselves, how the company would take care of them, but they were also able to portray that same kind of security to the vendors and to the dealers. So that comes from, being long-term within the organization. So the stability really helps in passing on, especially in the very difficult times. But also the entrepreneurism brings in the agility to change very quickly when things, go wrong. And I would say this whole balance of stability and agility is something which, at least we are aspiring for, and we continue to, hope we are doing a much better job. I believe that within a, a volatile environment, if we are able to do much better than the competition, that's a testament to, what the organization is.
Putting the consumer front and center has also played a major role in the success story of Havells, and that's meant creating a culture and a mindset that puts the needs of the consumer above everything else.
I believe thanks to, my father who founded the company and continuing today, is a very, very strong entrepreneurial culture who are, ready to try out new things. And, we all do a lot of consumer surveys and just understanding what the consumer needs are, but also going beyond that and trying to see whether we can give something extra to the consumer, not only in India, but globally. And if that, not only fulfills today's need, but also the latent needs of the consumer. And of course, in the process, gain a much higher acceptance from the consumer for the brand. So I think but every time it's not a success. And that's where, the entrepreneurial culture and a lot of, I would say collegiate atmosphere within the organization is required. Okay, we try something new, it works great in the, otherwise, we learn from that and keep developing on those things as a technology for the future. So I would attribute this a lot to the cultural part of the organization.
Creating a culture where employees feel motivated every day is key to creating a winning mindset. At Havells, Anil Rai Gupta says empowerment, empathy and ethics come first before market share.
I would say that people feel highly, motivated within the organization. So high level of motivation, empowerment, empathy, ethics, honesty, transparency, egoless, boundaryless. These are few of the traits of our culture which every individual within the organization needs to exhibit. And I think there are many things about the culture, but I think this is what basically defines us as an organization. That let's say if we want to improve market shares, what comes first? Does ethics come first or market share come first? So I would say that ethics come first. So these are the kind of behavioral things coming out of the culture which have been highly seeped into each and every individual in the organization. And I think that's what we feel very proud of.
Another key facet of Havells' success story is humility. Keep the ear to the ground helps the company to adjust its growth plans and make sound financial decisions.
Well, I think first of all being humble, and that comes from being an apolitical organization, so egoless and boundaryless organization. That just creates so many open channels for communication for a junior person speaking to a senior person, speaking the truth, not speaking what someone is wanting to listen, but actually what needs to listen. So that whole thing about creating a boundaryless and egoless culture, that's something which brings in a lot of humility. So if those financial decisions are taken for, let's say, investing heavily in a manufacturing infrastructure for the existing product categories, or something which is related, or taking out 1,000 crores for setting up a steel plant, which may not be a related diversification for us. So taking 1,000 crores decision within the parameters of within the businesses of the organization, that I still would feel that's a bold decision, same amount of money, but I would still say that it is not reckless. But also every decision may or may not go in the same manner what you would expect in the beginning, and then have the ability and the humility to keep listening not only to the market but people around you, and changing at different points of time, or readjusting those decisions which one has made. So keeping close to the ground and being humble to listen to people and correct those decisions, that's something which I believe that are bold, but I would say also not very reckless.
As a fast-moving electrical goods maker, Havells is in an extremely competitive market. But Anil Gupta says competition should not set the agenda for growth. That should be defined by the vision of the company and ensuring growth while also being energy efficient.
Well, first of all, sometimes, yes, competition is extremely important. There's no doubt about that, because without competition, one can become complacent. And so it doesn't drive the agenda. I think the agenda is driven by the vision. But obviously, you look at the environment around, which includes the competition, and then, make your plans around that. But I think the whole agenda is definitely driven by the vision of the. I think the way we look at it now is not only the competition or the environment, but also the way technology is changing the consumer. I think we've now repurposed our focus towards the consumer far more than it was in the past. So we are now looking at an individual consumer, whether it's a homeowner or whether it's a commercial builder. We are looking at them and how they would behave in the next 5 to 10 years. That's where the organization vision is, and that's how we would like to cater to. So I would say we have tweaked our purpose, becoming more. We've always been very consumer oriented, but I think with the technology and the innovation and the digitization, things are moving much faster in a very different way. And the consumer will have very different habits in the next 5 to 10 years, and that's what the focus is on. There is a lot of focus within the company on green. A lot of our innovation, for example, is predicated now more towards building energy efficient products. And as an organization, we are actually in a sweet spot of delivering products not just by setting up, let's say, solar panels on the factory, but also bringing out products which are far more energy efficient and which helps the environment. So today 60% of our products are now energy efficient. So there's a lot of focus on ensuring that we are contributing to the stakeholders of the organization, which is, all these stakeholders which are closely associated, channel partners, vendors, shareholders, investors, but also community at large.
Well, that is the story of Havells, and that brings the curtains down on this edition of The Winning Mindset. On our next episode, we profile a woman who's made her mark in the legal fraternity. For now, from all of us here on the team, goodbye and thanks for watching.